Welcome back to another episode of the FatmanStephens podcast. Of course, I am Marcus FatmanStephens. So, thank you for joining us for another episode here. And of course, right at the back, we're going to talk about wrestling. Of course, I think that's every week. Chino, my cat Chino, is right underneath my leg, and he is being very needy right now. Of all times to be needy, but whatever. Hi, Chi. Let me give him some pets real quick. Anyway, we're talking wrestling real quick. I want to talk about two things about wrestling, or like two major things. It is July. Happy July, everybody. So this is actually July 5th. I'm recording this a day before the episode's coming out. Um, so the big wrestling news story from last week was that Logan Paul has signed a WWE contract to perform at premium live events, I think, this year and next year. Um, Now, obviously, Logan Paul, I don't know too much about him. I just know the stories, and I know a lot about his brother Jake Paul. I just know that they probably aren't the best humans in the world. But neither were some of the great all time greats. You think Stone Cold was the best person ever? Do you think Undertaker was the greatest person ever? Hulk Hogan, all his problems that he's had. So I'm not going to judge him based. I'm not going to judge them based on that at all. That's not I'm not going to judge Logan on that. I'm going to judge Logan based on his match at WrestleMania 38 this past year with 38? 38, I forgot the number already, with teaming with The Miz against the Mysterios, and I think he did a fantastic job. Of course, there's still things he needs to learn, but that's why he showed enough to get signed to a contract. Now, here's the thing I don't agree with. Apparently, he wants to come in as a babyface. He wants the fans to cheer him, and there's no way smart Mark wrestling crowd are going to cheer Logan Paul over The Miz. It's just not going to happen. Especially if his first singles match is going to be at SummerSlam. You're not going to get cheered over The Miz, who's been doing this for 15 years or so. They're going to cheer for The Miz. If you came in as a heel, I would definitely appreciate and respect you more for that. But don't come in as a straight up babyface. You're not going to get cheered. Don't do that to yourself. You're going to have their whole Ronda effect, where you're thinking you're going to be a good guy, and then at the end of the day, they're going to just change over to heel anyway because that's what the fans want to see. It just doesn't work. Not everybody's going to be John Cena, where even though John Cena was getting, viciously booed everywhere he went, um, people they still kept him face because regardless of if the hardcore fans, was moving my camera, stop. Even if the hardcore fans were booing Cena, he was still doing so much for families and kids and stuff like that outweighed it, and that's who WWE was trying to even get to. They're not going to be doing that with Logan Paul. So, um, I would just say for Logan, he should come in as a straight heel. Obviously, they're not doing that because him and the Miz are going to be feuding. Um, but I'm looking forward to seeing what Logan Paul does in professional wrestling, excuse me, in sports entertainment WWE, because of what he did at WrestleMania. And I think if we're giving, we've had in the last like 5 years, the half decade, we've had some really good celebrity appearances after years and years and years of not having really good ones. I think about like Refrigerator Perry versus Lawrence Taylor versus Bam and Bigelow, which actually main event a WrestleMania, if you can believe that back in the day. But we've been really blessed with Pat McAfee versus Adam Cole, who did some really really tremendous things. Started off as a heel, but did such a good job that people had no choice but to appreciate and respect him. And Pat put on a great performance against Austin Theory at at WrestleMania this past year, and it was so good. He's getting his own match against Corbin. I think Corbin's a great heel for McAfee to like beat up. I don't know how the match quality will be, just yet. I knew Pat was going to have a great match with Cole. I knew Pat was going to have a great match in War Games because he's being carried by so many other talent. I knew he was going to have a good match with Theory because Theory is Theory who he is, and now with Corbin, I think it's going to be a good storyline match. I'm questioning the actual quality of it right now, and that could just be me because I'm not I don't have a lot of like Corbin matches that I think are really good. I think Corbin's best match in his whole career was that triple threat match he had with there was two really good triple threat matches. Now that I'm thinking about it, there was one he had with AJ. It was AJ Corbin and somebody else. Was it Ty Dillinger? at Hell in a Cell. The night he won the championship, that was a really good match. And then he had another really good one with, well, I forget who it was with. I know, but that was the one where Ziggler won. It was at Clash of Champions that year. That was a really good match as well. So those are his best matches. But other than that, Corbin doesn't really strike me as somebody that I would, I'm not gonna say waste Pat on, because Corbin plays a good heel. You can hate Baron Corbin all you want, but he does his job well. And to be a heel, to be that pain in the ass, and even his match with McIntyre at WrestleMania wasn't bad. Like it was an okay match for what it was. But back to celebrities, and we have Logan Paul, you have Pat McAfee, and then you have Bad Bunny. This is like the holy trinity of celebrities who did such a great job in the ring. And I'm looking forward to whenever Bad Bunny's done being so famous that he can't do wrestling. But I get it. He's a worldwide sensation. So of course he's gonna pick his talent. But he has a future in professional wrestling if he wants it. And I think we all have to give Logan Paul a chance. Regardless if we don't like it or not, we have to give him a chance, because I'm giving him a chance solely again based on what he did at WrestleMania, and I think he played a great foil to the Mysterio along with the Miz, and he had amazing gear as well. Number 2 gear next to Seth Rollins that year. But I definitely want to see what Logan Paul has to do. I definitely want to see heel Logan Paul though. But I just don't know who else he's going to wrestle. I guess him and Theory will have a match eventually. Because if he's going to be the babyface and everything happening with Theory right now, which we're going to talk about next. Because now we're going to talk about Money in the Bank, which was this past Saturday. Money in the Bank was a good event. It was actually a great event. Which was held up by the both Money in the Bank matches and the tag team title match between the Street Profits and the Usos, which we already knew was going to be really like top class, but this was amazing. They really went all out. I know WWE doesn't really focus too much on tag team wrestling, and it shows obviously because they break up tag teams every other day. But Street Profits, oh my goodness, Chino, Street Profits and the Usos really just went out and said, "Hey, we are the 2 top tag teams in the company right now, besides New Day," and they just stole the show. There was a few times where I thought the Usos were going to lose, but then again, I forgot that the Usos are like days away from being year-long champions. Or SmackDown Tag Champions. It will be a year, like what, July 16th, 17th, around there. So yeah, there was no way they were going to lose. You weren't beating the Usos that night. Especially if they're so close to breaking the record. I don't know if they'll break New Day's record. To break New Day's record, they'll have to hold the titles another 100 days. It's what, 483, 483 is the record, 484 around there. So if they're at 365 coming up, you need another 120 days, which is another 4 months. Oh yeah, they can do it. 4 months will put us into December. I'm sorry, November. Yeah, they can do it. It also depends on when Roman's going to drop the championship, and when everything's happening, who knows? But women's Money in the Bank, a stacked field. You had 4 Money in the Bank winners in Alexa Bliss and Asuka. You had Becky Lynch, the top female in the company right now. A lot of up and comers in Liv Morgan and Raquel Gonzalez and Lacey Evans. Is that everybody in that match? Did I get everybody? Yeah. It was Becky, Asuka, Alexa, Liv, Raquel, and Shotzi. Shotzi is another up and comer. I thought it was a great match. I think obviously there was a lot of mess ups, and I think that comes with it because you have a lot of females who don't get experience with ladder matches. They really don't do too many ladder matches for women on a yearly base. On a monthly, weekly basis, whatever. So to expect perfection from these 7 ladies when they're barely ever given time with ladders is laughable. We always have to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But I thought they did a great job with what they did, and they picked the right winner. For me, when I saw this, when Becky got announced for the match on last Monday when it happened, I was like, oh, this is Becky's match to win. Becky's going to win this, cash in on Ronda. They're going to have their whole SummerSlam feud, and of course here comes Charlotte, and they were going to do like a triple threat again for SummerSlam. And I didn't know if they were going to main event because you still have Brock and Roman, But I thought definitely that was going to be a big time matchup, but proved us all wrong. Becky's about to get the briefcase. Liv does a little move, gets back on the ropes and climbs up and grabs the briefcase. Liv Morgan becomes Miss Money in the freaking Bank. This is the right move for all females. Asuka and Alexa already won it. Don't need it really to come back to the main title picture. Raquel and Lacey, I think, are. I'm not going to say. I'm almost not saying that Liv's not talented, but I feel like Raquel is her size and Lacey, based on her gimmick and her look, will be able to get to the title picture on their own. Shotzi's the only one I would have been okay with winning as well, but she was like a real dark horse because I don't even know if she was supposed to be in this match. Compared to a big yawn. Compared to Aaliyah, I'm sorry, I'm recording this after working. um, Compared because Shotzi is supposed to face Aaliyah, but she ended up facing Tamina and beat Tamina. So I don't even know if she's supposed to beat Aaliyah to get into the match. And of course, Becky Lynch is Becky Lynch. She's going to be in the title picture. She's going to be in the main event picture some way, somehow. Doesn't matter. She doesn't really need it either. Liv was the only choice. Who Liv really worked hard end of last year with her feud with Becky Lynch and becoming a main eventer or becoming a fighter, and then she didn't get the job done at the Raw or Day One. So I'm glad that we had some progression. We didn't get it right away. I'm glad we built it up, and then Liv has such a fan base that when she pulled the Money in the Bank the briefcase down, the fans reacted positively. Like everybody loved it. It was such a great move, and of course that led on to later in the night. Ronda just defended this championship against Natalya. In the match, she hurt her leg. And then here comes Liv Morgan. And me and my friend were just saying there, like, this is not the person to cash in on, Liv. We were saying it all night. Liv, just hold on to hold on to the briefcase for a little bit because you got Bianca and Ronda. I'm not cashing on either one of them, in my opinion. But she cashed in on Ronda Rousey, which is, I think, already a great start to your reign to cash in on someone of that caliber. It's the same way when Carmella cashed in on Charlotte. I think that was such a great move and a great idea, and to really put her over. All the cashing attempts have been really good. Carmella over Charlotte, Alexa over Nia. What else have we had? Who won in 2019? I don't remember all the Money in the Banks. Bailey over Charlotte. Asuka becoming champion afterwards. Nikki over Charlotte. Damn, Charlotte's involved in a lot of these, huh? And then this year, Liv over Ronda. So Liv comes out. Ronda instantly puts her in an ankle lock. She reverses it, hits her leg. Her leg's already injured. She rolls her up. 1, 2, 3. Liv Morgan is now the SmackDown Women's Champion. Fans go crazy. I'm going crazy. I got tears in my eyes. I'm just so happy that Liv Morgan, after toiling for so long, she's one of the, she came up at the same time as the 4 horsewomen at NXT, Bayley, Sasha, Becky, and Charlotte, and didn't get much TV time. She always seemed like she was just there. Even like Mandy Rose got kind of a break. But Liv finally got her big opportunity. She's, one of the few success stories from NXT who weren't NXT women's champion, but they got the championship eventually. I think about somebody like Bianca. I think about somebody like Alexa or Carmella or Nia who weren't NXT women's champion, but they were eventually become Raw or SmackDown women's champion. Hats off to you, Liv. Liv obviously winning the championship means she's leaving Raw to go to SmackDown, and her talent pool on SmackDown is very high. Of course, the top of the division. I feel this is. I hope it's not a Nikki ASH thing because you got Ronda and you got Charlotte, and if I'm a betting man, that may be the matchup at SummerSlam this year. Triple threat: Liv, Ronda, and Charlotte, and that's already you got to beat the two. The two of the 3 top women in the company. Now that Sasha's out, Bayley hasn't come back yet. It's really down to Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky. Those are the 3 ladies of the company. And you already beat Ronda by Money in the Bank. You didn't really beat her in a straight up match, but now you have to face Ronda and Charlotte. That's like playing on Dante Must Die Mode and Devil May Cry. That's putting on yourself on the hardest difficulty. That's like playing Cuphead on Extreme or on Expert, whatever the next difficulty is. Is it Expert? I should know. I just played the Cuphead DLC. I'm talking about that in a little bit too. But that's the goal now that Liv has, and it's going to be a tough thing to do. But hats off to you, Liv Morgan. Very, very, very happy that you won a championship, and I hope this is a nice long reign. I hope it goes to the end, at least the end of the year. I hope that she has. I don't think she'll cover it into SummerSlam because they don't. It's Summer. I mean, not SummerSlam. WrestleMania, because they're going to have it all about Ronda, Charlotte, or Becky, or Bailey, whoever's around at the time. But hats off to you, Liv. Good job. Men's Money in the Bank. The seven guys who were in, and then at the end of the right before the match was about to start, here comes Adam Pearce saying, "I'm going to add somebody," and who does he add? Theory. Theory lost the U.S. Championship to Bobby Lashley earlier in the night, which I was shocked by, but it all made sense because this match was all about. And when the match was announced, and you had the people coming out, for me, the match was about three storylines. It was about Seth Rollins, who has successfully cashed in his Money in the Bank against Roman and Brock before, and of course Roman and Brock are having a match at SummerSlam. So you had that storyline. You had Drew McIntyre, we are 2 months away from having the first UK pay per view in 30 years in the UK. Of course, Drew McIntyre probably the biggest star for United Kingdom in WWE. I mean, you can argue him and Sheamus and Gunther, being the top guys from overseas who could main event the show. Obviously, Gunther's going to have a big appearance. I don't know who he's going to face, but he's going to have a big matchup. But Drew possibly winning Money in the Bank and either cashing in at SummerSlam or cashing in for a straight up match at Clash of the Castle, either one. And then of course you have Riddle just had a great match with Roman. So that was definitely a storyline there. Sami Zayn trying to win the briefcase to keep it in the bloodline as he's the honorary Uso. I really didn't have any stock in Omos or Madcap. Madcap was in the match because you need to have somebody young in the match as well. And I'm missing somebody who was in that match. Sheamus. And Sheamus is just in there because he's the former Money in the Bank winner as well. But adding Theory when Money in the Bank was first announced, I said, oh, Theory has to win it. He's a young star. That's what Money in the Bank should be used for the men. Either it's used as a revival or it's used as a refresher. When Money in the Bank came around, you look at the first three guys who were Money in the Bank in Edge, RVD, and Mr. Kennedy. Guys who hadn't had a shot just yet, and to push them. Obviously, Mr. Kennedy, didn't work out for him. But then you look at other years when you had CM Punk. CM Punk was a young guy he wanted. Jack Swagger, The Miz, Alberto Del Rio. So some of these guys, and then it started happening where people were trying to get revitalized in Cena and Orton. You had Seth Rollins who was coming up as well. Sheamus who got revived from the Money in the Bank contract. So it varies, but this was the right call because now you have Austin Theory. Theory climbs up to get the contract. I know a lot of people weren't a big fan of the move because he wasn't announced for the match. But reports have since come out saying that Theory was always going to be the winner. I guess this just works in his ways for being Mr. McMahon's chosen one. Now, here's the thing. Is the contract for both of the titles or just for one title? Because I can see Theory cashing in at SummerSlam and just walking out as WWE champion, right? He doesn't have to have both championships. And then Roman can face Drew at the UK show, beat Drew, whatever, keep holding the title until it's time for him to lose it, right? I guess we'll find out. They announced on Raw that he's teasing he will cash in, but of course because he's teasing it, I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's just building intrigue, and he's getting his rematch against Lashley. So if he could somehow beat Lashley and then win the title, that would definitely put Theory as the top guy in WWE, as the top young guy in WWE for now. So, yep, Theory holding the Money in the Bank and Liv. This is the future of the company. I said it online. I think these are the two best Money in the Bank winners, side by side, in a very long time. Of course, I think Big E was definitely deserving. I think that was a great Money in the Bank win last year. I'm still, especially after the years that she's had, the Nikki ASH thing. I don't think she should have won that. 2020, Asuka and Otis. Asuka, I think, should have definitely won it because of everything that she had built. And she was kind of floundering. So I think that was definitely deserved. And then Otis, we see how that ended. So I don't think that was a good idea. But I think, again, side by side, these two are the two best Money in the Bank winners in a very, I don't even know the last time, one was men and women who were two that I really, really thought that should have won it. I can't even think because as every year somebody who wins, I'm just like, really, that's the person you guys chose. So I'm all for it. I'm all for Theory cashing in and winning the championship. I'm a huge fan of Theory. I think dude is the future. If you have the future of WWE, it's Braun Breaker, it's Theory, it's Gable Stevenson. That's my three guys that is going to lead WWE in the future. You got somebody born in the '90s. You got Braun is late '90s and Gable's 2000. That's those three guys are going to be future main eventers. That's guys that you're going to be building cards all around in the future. So hats off to my man Theory. I'm sure Johnny Gargano is happy as well. Indy Hartwell posted her brother on Instagram the other day when he won it. So that was very sweet. All right, that's it for wrestling. So I just talked about it. I forgot I did it because I've already got through it. But Cuphead, the greatest. If you had said before Cuphead went multi-platform, I would even still say it now. I think Cuphead is the best Xbox One game of all time. I don't think anything comes close to it at all. Like that really sold the system. That and Crackdown 3 sold an Xbox One to me. Crackdown 3 beating the weekend. We have to talk about that. But Cuphead is such an amazing experience, and I just fell in love with it all over again with the DLC that just came out this past week. The Delicious Last Course, which includes 5 or 6, 7 more bosses. Really, if you get the secret bosses, includes 7 more bosses, and it includes you get to play as Miss Chalice, a different character who has her own way of working. Is a whole different experience. There's more challenges, there's puzzles and things like that. It's really fun. I ended up playing it the first day it came out on that Thursday. I worked overnight that day, so I ended up playing from like 5 until the time I had to go to work at that night. Oh, and I don't regret it at all. It was fantastic. Came home on Saturday and eventually I beat it. The DLC. I think my favorite part of it. So there's 5 main bosses that you have to do. So basically, what happened you're trying to do is you're trying to restore Miss Chalice. She wants to get her own body, and there's a guy, Chef Salt Baker, will say, "Hey, if you get these ingredients for me, I can make her, an actual body." And so you go around facing these 5 bosses, and then of course Chef Salt Baker is a bad guy, so you have to face him. He's the final boss of the DLC. Um, but also, there's a secret boss. I think for me personally, the secret boss was the hardest one because you had to kind of alternate your attacks and to do what you had to do. So anytime, basically, so there was two. There's 2 ghosts, and the one ghost what you could is the one you're attacking, and the other ghost is a passive ghost. And every time you face a different wave, the ghost would change which one is the one you had to attack. It was so confusing. My mind was all messed up. It looked that boss took me like a half hour. I think that was the hardest one of the DLC. Of all the other ones, they weren't too tough. The dog fight one was kind of tough because the last phase was disorienting, going like up and down. Um, who else? Everybody else I think was okay. It took me a while to get past the mob one because the first phase is always tough and I'll always lose too much HP to not, and if I mess up one time in the second and third phases I was always messed up. I remember when the first time I got to the mob boss and they said knockout. I was like, oh, it won. And then of course the last boss, the boss comes out and he's firing still, and he killed me. His life bar was like that close to being done, so I was pretty upset about that. But man, Cuphead's great, and I actually went through it, and I played or yeah. So there's one achievement that says beat 10 bosses as Miss Chalice. So of course, I ran through like the first 2 aisles with Miss Chalice to see what I remembered, and the game is fantastic. It still holds up. I think Cuphead is a great experience. Everybody talks about great indie games. Of course, now that Hades came out last year, Hades is or 2020. Everybody talks about Hades is like the golden standard of like indie games. But even before that, you think about like Shadow Complex, or you think about Braid. I think Braid is like the first like real like indie game for consoles. I mean, you can debate it, but it's one of the first big ones. But Cuphead deserves its own flowers as well. Like, give Cuphead its flowers. It is a great independent game. Cuphead and Hades, like, you have a tough run and gun versus a tough roguelike. Like, that's like 2 of my game types right there. So, I highly recommend anybody who's never played Cuphead to play it with the DLC. Like, give it a chance. It is tough. It is difficult. You will rage, but it is fun. Even again playing on the second time again, I didn't beat all the bosses just yet either. Um, but playing it with Miss Chalice through the first aisle, and then get to the second aisle again. I'm going to eventually beat it all with Miss Chalice, but it's been a great time again, and I love Cuphead on my heart. What a great game! A sequel? Now they did a DLC, but I mean, of course, the DLC took like 5 years. Um, with COVID and everything, it's supposed to come out in 2020. Obviously, did not happen, and now we're getting in 2022. So, I Cuphead's fantastic. Definitely worth a game a play. Last thing I want to talk about is streaming. So, of course, we know Stranger Things has overtaken the world since it came back out in May, Memorial Day weekend, and now part two of season of volume four has come out for July weekend. And my question that I posed on my Facebook, and I got a little response, but Stranger Things Volume 4 apparently was 13 hours long for 9 episodes. So a lot of episodes was like 1 hour 10 minutes. Like I think episode 7 was like an hour 40 minutes. And of course the season 4 finale was 2 hours 22 minutes. So do people think that will be the new gold standard for TV shows on streaming? Um, and in hindsight, and also in contrast, we watched Umbrella Academy this past weekend. We watched on Sunday. We watched all 10 episodes in one day, and the episodes range from 40 minutes to 50 minutes, and that's about an 8 hour experience versus a 13 hour experience. But what do people prefer? Do you prefer a shorter experience like that, or do you prefer, or again, do you think Stranger Things is the new gold standard in terms of episodes and streaming and length? So I'm on the fence. Stranger Things season four or volume four, season four, whatever, 13 hours, flew the hell by. Did never really look at the clock. Was like, oh, this episode almost over? Like, no, I was always on the edge of my seat for the whole thing, and it did not feel like it at all. But then I saw people complain and said 13 hours is way too long for a series. Do people not remember that episodes or series used to be 22 episodes long? And if you're doing 50 minute episodes or 40 minutes episodes, that's even longer than Stranger Things was. Like, are you kidding me? You're spending, or if you watch it live as it air with commercials, you're spending an hour. You're spending 22 hours with a show. Like this, it's not lengthy at all. I think that argument is dumb in terms of how TV has been. So I feel like event shows like this, the new Game of Thrones show that's coming out, anything that has like a big following, make it longer. Make it an hour and a half episodes. Make it longer finales. Like if you had the budget for it, do it. But do not alien. I don't think that should be the norm for all TV shows. I think of like All of Us Are Dead. I think All of Us Are Dead like floated around like the 55 minutes to an hour and a half range between episodes. That's fine for that show. Again, but don't get away from the 40 to 60 minute episodes. Don't get away from half-hour episodes. Cobra Kai's coming back out in 2 months. Yes, cannot wait. And I believe those episodes are going to be like between 30 to 45 minutes, and I think the finale is usually longer. Keep that up. I'm okay with that. Every show does not need 2.5 hour finale. Cobra Kai is so fast. What would you do with 2.5 hours on that show? Like, that's a lot in one episode. But Stranger Things, again, I give it a pass because, again, also with Stranger Things, it was 3 years in the making. Season 3 came out, 2019, 4th of July weekend. We needed all of this. So I'm okay with this. This being the new norm for big shows only. I don't think every show needs to be an hour and a half episode leading up to it. And even as even like the Duffer Brothers even said, hey, season 5 will probably be a little bit shorter because now we know what the end game is. So don't expect too much longer. But that could be, that could mean that it goes from 13 hours to 10 hours. Like it gets just cut out 3 hours. I'm okay with that as well. But again, I'm really curious what people think. Do you want longer episodes for your shows? Because then I think about Disney Plus shows, or so all this time. First of all, from the time Stranger Things came out until Volume 1 came out to Volume 2, it's been crazy for streaming. So you had Volume 1 of Stranger Things Season 4 come out, you had Obi-Wan come out, Miss Marvel, you had The Boys still airing, and you have Umbrella Academy in like a 5 week span. So of course Miss Marvel ends next Wednesday, and then The Boys ends this Friday. So it's like you had so many like varying shows coming out, varying different times. I think of like again, Miss Marvel was ranged between like 42 to 50 minutes. The Boys is going from like 55 to an hour. So I'm hoping the finale is a little bit longer. Hoping the finale for The Boys is like an hour 10, 20 around then. They've been pretty good about making it longer for the finale. So I'm hoping that's the case. But again, like, only do it for event shows. But again, I'm open to what other people think. What do you want? Do you want the longer episodes, or do you prefer the shorter episodes? I was also thinking about another show, that Perry show that came out in January, was it The Girl in the Window from Across the Street, blah blah blah. I think it was like 6 episodes, but each episode was like a half hour long, and it made for a faster experience because it's a limited time show anyway. But I get it in that regard because nobody was really looking forward to that anyway, where there wasn't a lot of hype and buzz. But for Stranger Things, you had to do the longer episodes, and I get it. And now that you've done that, and you only got one season left, I feel like fans are expecting that as well. So I don't know. It also could be for your attention span. Everybody talks about they have short attention span, but then when Stranger Things drops, a 2.5 hour finale, or when Spider Man No Way Home is 2 hours, or when Endgame said, "Hey, we're 3 hours," and you're like, oh, "Okay, we're gonna watch it," or your attention span just suddenly increased. We give our attention span to things that we really care about, and in this term, we really care about Stranger Things. We really care about the characters. I don't want to go a deep delve into everything that happens because I feel like it's still so fresh that, I mean, this comes out in the 6th. It's only been out for 6 days when this episode releases. I want to give people enough time to actually watch it. Maybe we'll talk about it at the end of this month. We'll talk about Umbrella Academy, The Boys, Miss Marvel. Maybe we'll just do like a streaming show episode, because I don't want to spoil the show. But all I will say with Stranger Things season 4 is the best season. I don't know. It's definitely the longest. I definitely think that like season 2, I had like a more jonesing from season 2. Maybe because it's the last season and I don't like to finish things. And I'm kind of sad to see these characters go. Like, it's gonna be really hard when Cobra Kai eventually leaves. Like, I assume season 6 or season 7 will be the last season, because it was like my two favorite shows on Netflix. So maybe I don't want to see them go. So maybe I'm not too pumped up. But it also could be because the finale was just like, all right, like, Hawkins is messed up, and they just kind of got cut on that. You just see that the Upside Down is now coming up to Hawkins. So maybe because the finale wasn't as like a cliffhanger as season 3 was, because season 3, of course, you remember how it ended, where the American, which you think is Hopper, is in Russia now. So it ended on that note. So you're like, oh, is Hopper still alive? You're asking questions. I don't have too many questions about. Well, obviously, with the question about, you know what? I've already spoiled enough, didn't I? I've already said I wasn't going to spoil it, but I just spoiled it. We'll talk about it on another episode. I need to end this because I'm getting tired. I need to go to sleep. But thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the FatmanStephens podcast. We're on all podcast channels. We're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Deezer, Spotify. Anywhere you get your podcast, FatmanStephens is all one word, and then it's the podcast, which is a space afterwards. We're also on YouTube. You're watching a video. Hello. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell your friends about it. Again, I want to hear your opinions as well. Do you prefer Stranger Things season 4? Do you prefer how that's doing things with longer episodes, or do you want the shorter episodes from the past, like 40? Is a 44-minute episode good enough for you? 45 minutes? What you want? I want to hear from y'all. So hit me up on all the socials. I'm on Facebook for Marcus Stevens, if you know personal. Also on Twitter, Podcast. Is it Fatman Pod 90? Fatman Pod 90. Also on Instagram, FatmanStephens, all one word. Hit me up. I want to hear from y'all. Thank you so much for this episode, for listening or watching. I can't even close. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of FatmanStephens podcast. We'll see you again next week, where we'll talk about more wrestling, I assume. All right, y'all. Peace.